Thank you for the question. First, I would like to emphasize that the plastic park was not developed by Petrobras. It was developed by the founding shareholder of Petrobras, Saudi Aramco, and Sumitomo Chemical, and that did not cost Petrobras any single penny.
That's it, that father.
Yeah, so just clarify it. Through my experiences or involvement in this one from the beginning, I think proper preparations and also learning from others. You know, back in 2003 and 2004, when the idea was being discussed, we went outside and we visited so many places. You know, we went to Dow Value Park, we went to Singapore, we went to China, and we learned from them, and we try to apply the best practices that they are having there. So I think we don't have to invent the wheel. We need to learn from others, and we need to set our agenda and objective and move. If we are going to wait for regulations and wait for universities to come, I think we'll be waiting another 40 years. I think the key players that they can make the difference, the people who have the subject matter expert, they can put the roadmap and then they go and push it and try to work with the regulators and work with the other key players to come. If you are going to wait, I think we'll wait for a long period of time.
Thank you. Second question from the front row.
Yes. My name is Abdulaziz Al Ahmed. I worked for SABIC for 30 years and I am one of the SMEs. I have 1 point and 2 questions. From this conference, I didn't see somebody from the SMEs or the small companies who's giving papers or giving, their views. And the first question I have is that, in many countries, there is many distributors and many agents. And except here, we in Saudi Arabia, we don't have many distributors to serve the small customers. It is too expensive maybe for somebody who is buying half a truck a month to be served by big companies like any one of those. I don't want to mention names. And the second question is the price structure. The price structure between Saudi Arabia and the nearby country and the other countries for plastic resin. Now, are we going to make the plastic resin like the diesel business? So that's my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps the first question for Tasnia, perhaps about distributors. So the question is, we don't have enough distributors in Saudi Arabia.
Well, I think the point is that the distribution is just a matter of service availability, and I think by setting up our marketing team and our sales team, we'll be able to really bring the product to the customers wherever they are. And there is at a certain moment in Saudi Arabia, there's no need to really add a third party in between. We really can serve the customers directly. And I think Abdelaziz's question was about the quantities and whether a small SME or a small producer can buy smaller material. I think we have some distributor for smaller quantities, or even sometimes ourselves we could deliver certain small quantities, and they can be made available to even small customers.
Okay, thank you. Now, I don't know who is the best person to talk about price structures comparing Saudi Arabia with nearby countries. Perhaps Mosaid from this morning has an observation on that. Yeah, sure. If anyone else feels they wish to comment on pricing structures, but I'm not sure who is the best placed person.
How is it now? Yes. On the logistic, one of the things that SABIC has done is And actually, it is a very innovative idea for small and medium off-takers, because they can actually drive their truck into the location, load it, pay with their card, and leave. Very smooth, very efficient, and it is well distributed so as to cut the supply chain, very, very shortly. On the pricing, one of the things that SABIC offers to the market in Saudi Arabia is the discipline. Our prices are announced and they are known to the market. We have a certain rebate scheme that is very well known and it is well established, very well tested. And I think that is a market. In order for the market to mature, you need this transparency in pricing. And you see the pricing also being announced in the traditional price communicators like ICI and ICS and the other publications. So I think from an SME perspective, there is sufficient clarity on the pricing and going forward that allows them to, in a proactive way, manage their business to maximize their returns. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, we'll take one more question from the front row. If I could ask Masaid if you could stay on stage.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, just I
Yes, sure.
elaborate on the pricing. I think I do agree with the gentleman that the pricing structure in the kingdom, I think, for the domestic consumption, I think need to be looked at again, and it's time maybe to look at it. It doesn't support the SMEs in terms of pricing structure, in terms of rebate. So I think it's time for the market and the people who are involved on the pricing structure to look into the pricing structure and look how can we help the SMEs.
That's a very interesting suggestion. I think that's certainly worthy of deeper debate, a very important topic. If we could take one final question from the front row, please.
Okay. Khalid Salim from National Cluster Program. I have a question for each one of the speakers. Saleh, I want to start with you. Welcome to Innovation World. And the question is, it was not clear to me in the presentation if you are going the hard way or the easier way, but expensive way. The hard way, it means تصنيع will depend on their capabilities to do their research and innovation. And the easier way and the shortcut is to work with local and global universities and institutions, work with your technology partners, with customers, which it needs also a huge investment. I want just to hear how Tasneer is moving in that. To Abdullah, about Rabigh Plastic Park, the initiative of that park, it was based on the support from Petro Rabigh to the industry in the park. Talking to some industries there, I have mixed feelings. I want also to know from your side, what's the share, for example, of plastics supplied to the park? Are you having a major share of the supply, or we are seeing other companies, local companies, they are supplying the park? The idea it was Petro Rabigh to take lead in that. And for Ahmatouk, it was really very good insight about what is required from the government. But I want also to hear from you about what initiatives that NatBit is doing in the area of the development of downstream.
NatBit first initiative is to convert 130,000 ton into downstream. We have just commissioned our first geotextile, and we are in the design of our 100,005 ton of compounding.
Okay, thank you very much. That takes the third question. The first question was for Tasnia. Are you taking the easy route or the hard route?
I think, Khalid, we actually maybe taken both. I don't know whether there is really a differentiation between both ways, because I think they will be complementary to each other. Definitely, if the easy way, in my opinion, was in the conversion business, is to really go to very commodity downstream conversion, where you really don't have to worry about any kind of new ideas or new establishment of a market or new product that you bring to the market, with the challenges of making it and the challenges of even an arm's length relation between Tasnia and its downstream. But it's on the contrary. I think one of the things that Tasnia opted to do was really to keep the downstream industries to support the industry. And if you come and look at the plastic conversion, for example, all the product that we are making are really new products, new ideas, and they will require some a lot of effort, technical effort. They required marketing effort, and they're all new ideas. Any private sector will never be able to really take the financial load and the financial burden of these new ideas and spend money in marketing these ones. The Technical Research Center for the Plastic Services is an arm for this research to really support it. And once these ideas are available, they will never be just like for Tasnia only, but they're going to be available for any other customers, because the development of this product is going to come again from Tasnia marketing for the resin or any other producer. So there will be like no exclusivity of these industries to anybody. They could be all one day in some kind of a public information that can be available to other downstream. So these were Tasnia, through the plastic, through even crystal downstream industry, bringing the titanium and all the titanium effort and the new ideas that are coming in the titanium business is Tasnia undertaken. One of the difficult parts, to be honest with you, is going into the acrylic and the acrylates business. It's not the most lucrative business. Your best choice is to really take your polyethylene, ethylene to polyethylene, and your propylene to polypropylene. But that was not really what's the thing or the path that Tasnia took. These are considered tough ones, and they require a lot of financial burden. And to be honest with you, we are even suffering from this, but I think it's a matter of time. I think it's a matter of hopefully development, improvement of our efficiencies of way of doing things, and there is a huge learning in that as well.
Okay, thank you. If I could just take the third point to Abdullah. Petro Rabigh, do you have exclusive supply for plastics to the plastic park? I think that was the question.
The original plan was for Petrobras to provide and utilize the available capacity on our complex to provide services. And that's for the power is up to 80 megawatt. And I think that we didn't have any issues with the water. I think the question is about the power because there is a lot of demand, and also to cover for phase 2 expansion for the plastic park. You know, the Saudi Aramco and Sumitomo, they agreed to secure the upcoming demand for the phase 2 from Sekiko. So there is a substation right now. It's being built as part of phase 2 project to supply the plastic park with additional power for the future expansions. And that one will be from Sekiko direct.
Okay. Did you want to make a point?
I was just going to comment on the hard way, the soft way. It's a matter of what the nation is looking for. I just give you on the auto industry of South Africa plan that was in the late 80s, because they are so advanced in the metallurgy and in the steel and so on. When they created the car manufacturing, they put a formula called 80-20-20-80. And they started with 80%. You bring whatever you want, but make innovation centers and so on, that in 15 years, we reverse the formula. So if you look now in South Africa, is over 90% of car components, okay, and supplies to even international car makers are made in South Africa. So you need something like that.
Thank you, Richard.
Just if you can.
I promised, yes. Musa'ad, thank you very much for your presentation, but the one before the last slide is not really a good one. And that was the 40 years that Europe have waited to go to the 35%. Being an ex-CEO of SABIC Europe's there, and you gentlemen are in the United States, what is SABIC targeted dates to reach 35% from 15? And me and you would like to hear it and live it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a good question, and you're raising a good point. As far as the time frame, I think it is, as Mr. Al-Madi yesterday had, it is not a single player game. There's a whole lot of parties involved in it. And we can see that the current structure lacks a coordination body that aligns and push all the initiatives in a coordinating way. So the question is very valid, and I think it is a question that for all of us to answer. What I showed is that it is not a small challenge that is facing us, and it is not something that is going to happen overnight. We have to be ready and pace ourselves for the long journey. It has to start now for us to move forward. And, I mean, don't be too much taken by the numbers, 15% differentiated versus 35% and 40 years. This is just to give you the previous from other nations, other countries that have done it. It gives you a good feel of the size of the challenge. I think the importance for us is to be practical. From a SABIC perspective, hopefully my presentation I gave you exactly what you're talking. We have identified the sectors and the applications that, I mean, automotive, for example, solar and energy, medical application, building and constructions. And we know these, or studying these issues, and we are understanding what is the value chain in those, and we are gearing up our product portfolio to be able to support the downstream. And it is not a matter of, well, building a plant and pushing the product. You have to have the intellectual property, intellectual capabilities and intellectual knowledge that allow you to support these. Because once you go downstream, your engagement with the customer becomes so close. You have to make what they need and give them what they need. So it's not a matter of only pushing the production capacity, but building the research and application development capabilities that allow you to push. So that's our views. We identify the sectors, we know these sectors and these applications, and we are building capabilities to serve down there. So.
Okay, I think Mr. Al-Madi has an observation.
I'll take all of that.
The one next to Mr. Sir.
Yes, Mosul Al-Utaybi, the CEO of Royal Commission at Jubail. I have a question actually to both Saleh of Tasniya and Saleh of Petro Rabigh. As you know, the main target for us as a government, as a country, that we enable the downstream, that we have more job opportunities for the Saudi people. So we have a good example now. You talked about one of them is Rawad, and the other one is Blaskem of Petro Rabigh, and you mentioned, I believe, some of employees' number. Can I know exactly the percentage of the Saudization in that job? Because that's very important to see if we have the skills or that can fulfill the demand of the downstream if we have more.
Well, Doctor, definitely the challenge of the employment for our industry is really very difficult, especially for the downstream. And I mean, me personally, coming from SABIC, at certain time, maybe it's something that I never felt until we moved to Tasniya and we start really seeing the difficulties of reaching certain percentage of employment. I think the skill, the knowledge is something you can gain. But the financial challenges for the downstream is going to continue with what do we have today. Simple examples I can even give you, and it's not like for any reason, but we have some suffering, or the downstream industry do suffer a lot from certain infrastructure, from certain services that are supposed to be made available, like the power, like the water services and all of these things, but they end up paying for it. Now, if you have to pay for this and you have to meet like a minimum wages for Saudis and training them, where you have to really duplicate the manpower for a certain period of time, because whatever education we do without really the hands-on training, it will never really work, especially for downstream industries. There are a lot of critical equipments and methods that they have to really taught on the machines. So this is going to continue to be challenging unless something happens. But yet, and here is where we're also an example why some of our downstreams are really be able to meet with that, is because Tasniya were able to help these companies and even take the burden of really, you can call it maybe even lower profitability, because of really supporting the Saudization. For example, we go to Hail now and we hire 140 people. 100 people, we put them in the University of Hail, and 40 people, we take them to the Higher Institute of Plastic in Riyadh to really have them ready for this. And when you go and you ask for even visas and things like that, you face the same typical difficulty. So I think it's really going to be a combination of many things. There is basic requirement still going to continue to be required by the basic industry. Honestly, we go to hire, with all due respect to our colleagues of Mudun, it's there is only asphalt and lighting in the streets, and that's it. 100,000 square meters of land. You'll have to develop all of this, and we've been told even that we're not going to have power until 2 years from now, so we'll have to get generators. For our BOBB, we have to go and buy land from a private investor in Dammam, because at that time we were requested to do it, and we did not have land in Jubail. We could not get a land in Dammam 2. We were told there is a land in Dammam 3 and 4, which was sand dunes at that time. So what happened, we had to buy a land for this that doesn't have power, does not have water, does not have anything, and we spent around 50 million riyal to really put only power generators for these things. So the infrastructure, the requirement for the downstream is going to be in these areas. Definitely, Abdullah and maybe Saad and all of us and Ma'toug, we know in the basic industries that, of course, maybe the prices could be something. But at least before even the prices, there is certain minimum requirement that needs to be there to allow these people to have the chance of hiring the Saudis. And when we come to the after, our product goes to the market, and the market is flooded with a Chinese product. So how can you even sell our product? So these are the challenges, but we still have to do with that. I'm sorry for...
Okay, I'm going to have to close the session. I'm sorry. I know this is a discussion that we need to spend some more time on, but I've allowed things to overrun. So perhaps we could pick this up either in Q&A later or over the coffee break, if that's okay. Thank you. I've let the session run on a little bit. Thank you very much for all of your questions. Before you leave, I'd like to invite Dr. Ala Nassif, Executive President at Yanbu for the Royal Commission, to join us on the stage to present some certificates to the speakers. Then we shall break for coffee. I'm going to cut the coffee break to 15 minutes. So thank you for that. Dr. Allah. So please join us in thanking our four speakers from this morning. So firstly, Mosaid Al-Ohali, who is Executive Vice President at SABIC. Thank you very much. Engineer Saleh Al-Nasha, Chief Executive Officer at Tasnia. Thank you very much. Abdullah Al-Suwailem, President and CEO of PetroRabic. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Matuk Jannah, who is the Managing Director of Operations and Maintenance at NatPet. Thank you. Okay, we shall break for 15 minutes, so I'm cutting the coffee break short. I apologise for that. I felt it was important to run on a little bit there. If you can be back in 15 minutes, thank you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I apologise for compressing your coffee break. I felt that the last session was very engaging, some excellent presentations, of course, but we had a lot of questions from the floor, and I feel that it's important to give delegates and speakers a chance to interact on these important themes. So hopefully that added value to your experience, but I apologise for truncating your coffee break. So the next session, we're going to look at conversion products and specialty performance chemicals, advanced materials for tailoring applications. I'd like to invite all of the panelists to the stage. I have 3 out of my 4 panelists. If Graham Hoare, the Vice President for Middle East for Nexant, is in the room, if you could make your way to the stage. We shall be beginning in 1 minute. Okay, I'm sure Graham is making his way here and will join us. Here he is. Welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin this session. As I said, I apologise for truncating your coffee break. We've got a lot to get through. So firstly, I would like to start by introducing. The next session is a panel discussion, so I want to introduce the 4 panelists. We're going to be looking at conversion and specialty performance chemicals, as I said. So I have on my left here Dr. Raid Al-Zubi, who is the Executive President for Petrochemicals Conversion Company Limited. We have Tymon Moore, who is the Director of Marketing for Innovative Plastics at SABIC. We have Alan Yeep, who is the Chief Executive Officer for New Quantum Holdings, and just joining us, Graham Hoare, who is the Vice President for Middle East of Nexant. Graham is actually a stand-in at very short notice, so thank you, Graham, for doing that. Unfortunately, Engineer Osama Abdulaziz Al-Zamil, the Chairman of Business Development at Zamil Chemplast, he has been unable to join us today, so he sends his apologies for that, but thank you, Graham, for stepping in at short notice. Before I join you on the seats, perhaps I could just get the ball rolling with a question to you, Dr. Raid. Petrochemicals Conversion Company, a very large manufacturing capacity for local, regional and international customers. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your production capacity, your target markets and your strategic development. Thank you. Have the microphone on, please.
I hope the audience will forgive me, even though my name is Petrochemical Conversion Company, the name of our company. I don't have any specialty chemicals to share with you today. But what I'm excited about today to share is PCC's industrial park for nylon and plastics manufacturing. This is a state-of-the-art industrial park that is comprised of 10 projects that are housed in 8 manufacturing plants. The nylon complex has nylon polymerization, nylon 6,6, as well as the compounding facility. This capability will be the first in the Middle East, or even outside the traditional markets for nylon 6,6, and this now is going to be available in the Kingdom at the end of this year, and we are proud of that. The nylon is, of course, to support the automotive sector, and the 6 conversion or plastics manufacturing plants include the 40,000 square meter automotive plant, in which we'll utilize the nylon 6,6. as well as a number of plants that I would highlight, for example, caps and closures, medical pharmaceutical, as well as drip irrigation. PCC is an integrated industrial park, and its vision and its model is to provide this capacity to, first and foremost, already established plastics manufacturers in the kingdom, to give them added capacity overnight without the need for the investment, the capex investment. It allows them also the opportunity to diversify into other products or complementary products into their main core competency. Local plastics manufacturers to come into the kingdom, to establish a presence, to be able to serve their customers in the kingdom in a more effective way. And of course, international players that look at not just as the kingdom as a market, but also as a base for solving logistical challenges or getting closer to new markets, or as a hub to utilize the great opportunities for the kingdom for manufacturing. I don't like the word incentives, but the benefits of being in Saudi Arabia, utilizing its ecosystem for serving not just local, but regional, but international companies. So to summarize, we are a manufacturing industrial park. It is coming online, as the picture sees today. We will be fully operational, starting with our first plants coming online this month, and we will end the commercialization or the roll-up into manufacturing by the end of 2014 with the nylon complex.
Thank you. And I know that you are developing, or you have an automotive plant as well. The automotive has come up 2 or 3 times in the past 48 hours. As a growth sector for the kingdom, or a strategic development sector. Perhaps can you tell us a little bit about that facility and why you have chosen to go into automotive?
I think in the strategic vision is to bring an OEM, an automotive equipment manufacturer. We had to kind of put in the different pieces of the puzzle, and one of them, the availability of raw material. A nylon 6/6 is a material that used for automotive parts that are what's called under the hood. So if you open the hood of the car and you have a look, these plastic parts are nylon 6/6 and nylon 6. So we solved that problem. Is now we have a material that they can use when they establish, and I hope they will establish soon, the manufacturing of cars, automotive cars in the kingdom. The second is a state-of-the-art injection molding, injection blow molding manufacturing capability that will utilize this material and other material to serve the automotive OEM or the automotive car manufacturer. Also, to help Tier 1 and Tier 2 manufacturing companies that are global, serving the OEMs to come and establish their manufacturing operation in the shortest possible time. So we are part of the solution by bringing raw material, manufacturing capability, and shorten the timeline to getting the whole puzzle, pieces of the puzzle in place. So this is a commitment, this is a long-term commitment, and we're very humbled and proud to be able to offer that in the kingdom.
Okay, thank you. If I can move on to Timon now, SABIC, obviously the giant of petrochemicals, not just in Saudi Arabia, but one of the giants globally. You're looking to diversify, as we've heard over the past few days, and develop more specialty products. You are Director of Marketing for Innovative Plastics. Perhaps you can just summarise, it's going to be difficult, I know, what initiatives SABIC is up to at the moment.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. At SABIC, you've heard over the past couple of days that we view ourselves as a key enabler for differentiation in the downstream within KSA. And one of the ways we do that is by continuing to build capabilities and processes that enable our customers to be successful. An example of that is bringing new innovative materials into the region. Today we manufacture polycarbonate and compounded engineering thermoplastics and polypropylene in KSA. We have plans to add capacity and have projects ongoing for acetal, acrylic, elastomers, ABS, and carbon fiber. Another way we are trying to make sure our customers are successful in supporting them is about transferring knowledge on a technical and a marketing level. SABIC's invested in 2 programs to make sure that that transfer happens, and one of which is the SABIC Plastics Application Development Center, or SPADC, and the other is the home of innovation. In December 2013, just a few months ago, we inaugurated the SPADC, and this state-of-the-art facility is located in Riyadh Techno Valley. It has a main goal of making sure our customers know how to utilize our products. We now have world-class capabilities around materials, processing, and application development support. It's based in Riyadh. It's there for our customers to use. It's something we're very proud of. The Home of Innovation, on the other hand, is a marketing tool. That's something we're introducing for the first time to the audience, a lot of the audience here today. And that's a way for us to collaborate and work with our customers. And it's also a showpiece for us to attract technology partners on a local, a regional, and an international level. It's meant to bring together key decision makers and stakeholders across the value chain that you saw from Mr. Al-Ohali's presentation this morning.
So when you say the Home of Innovation is a marketing tool, this is an initiative or a program to bring together partners and stakeholders with SABIC to do what? To have conferences or to, is it an incubator? What is it exactly?
We have two pieces. You have a marketing component to this that is meant to get people talking and coming up with innovative solutions and ideas, applications that could and should be manufactured within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And the way we intend to do that is by getting original equipment manufacturers, converters, investors, regulators, and academia around one table to talk about some of the major challenges we're facing where local material availability and industry or market trends meet and provide some unique solutions.
So for the SABIC, what should we call it, the downstream diversification portfolio, that is primarily about in-country manufacturing for export or for local customers?
It's primarily in-country for local consumption. There's an export component of it, but it's really about making sure we've got raw materials available for the complex value chains that are going to be required to help differentiate the downstream here in KSA.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to, perhaps once we've been round the panel, we can come back and touch on some of the opportunities and challenges in that area. Alan, if I could turn to you, New Quantum Holdings, perhaps before you answer my question, you could tell us a little bit about New Quantum Holdings. But from our conversations last night, you have quite an interesting take or opinion on how the Kingdom should be looking at the development of speciality products, or manufacturers should be looking at the development of products. It's not just about producing products, it's about branding and the customers. So to start, perhaps you could talk about New Quantum Holdings. Who are you? What do you do? And then maybe go into that point.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Yip. I'm from New Quantum Holdings. Our company have three departments. One is the commodity distributions and the finished productions. And the last, we have the technologies departments. What happened in our company is that we really go to downstream, because when you're looking into the real finished product in China, it's also facing the competitions. Look at the China's, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, they started the journey about the downstreams. And what's today happening in China is they are facing a big competition when the renminbi, the local currency, appreciating against the US dollars, and the labor cost is increasing. All what they are looking for is actually the competitive edge in the product differentiations. From these, we actually have two manufacturing factories in China, manufacturing the product, supplying to the US and Europe, and we are facing the margin issue. That's actually forcing us into looking into the new innovation technology by putting the effort into the product differentiations. What we created is that the two technology in the environmental friendly product. One is the also biodegradable, and then the biodegradable. We are the only company in the world now having the two technologies at the same time. As this is all about the segmentations, into the different applications. For example, like biodegradables is facing the problem of the cost issue. And if you want to push to the market and trying to selling the biodegradables product to the certain, for example, like a supermarket, it's not going to be work at this moment because bottom line is the cost. And that's make us to make the oxo biodegradable, which is the cost leadership. We adopted the two strategy. One is the cost leadership. At the same time, the product differentiations. And look at I think Saudi Arabia, we are assessing to the competitive raw material. What we are looking for here is that the collaborations with the upstream and then the collaboration with the local partners and building the competitive solutions. It's not about the product because I think at the end is the branding. As I mentioned, the roles that looking for brand. So if you produce in the Saudi, let's imagine, that previous panels have presented about the made in Saudi. It's the vision of the Saudi Arabia to make Saudi Arabia as a manufacturing center or innovative manufacturing center for the downstream, which I mean downstream mean not from the crude oil to the polyethylene, to the ethylene, polyethylene, or to the specialty chemical, but it's real going to the finished product. So when I look into the China's situation, where they moved their plant also, about 5 or 10 years ago, they tried to move to the South Asia because they had anti-dumping issue from the U.S. And they don't look into the innovation. They don't look into the branding. They are just OEM. This is what's happening when they move to the South Asia, problem again. Because, again, the U.S. will anti-dumping. And on the other hand, when you work just for the, just OEM without your own brand, at the end, the value add, the margin is actually earned by the brand owner.
So your observation, a lot of the conversation we've had has been about the linear progression along the value chain to higher value products. But you're saying actually, and I think one of the speakers, I can't remember who made the point about moving from development by push to customer pull. You're following that ethos. You're saying Saudi Arabia should be looking at the brands that it sells at the end of the chain rather than the technical development along the chain.
Yeah. Or on the other hand, I think they can invite, that some of the global brands, in the packagings to have the joint ventures in Saudi Arabia, where they're assessing to the, the global market, instead of that, just, starting, because brand, you take times. It takes, sometimes to build the brand.
So for you, one of the major developments the kingdom should be looking at is attracting those world-leading brands to partner and develop in the kingdom, and that's going to add more value than just new technology or new product.
Yes.
Thank you. Very interesting observation, and I think that should fit into the wider narrative that we're developing here about joined-up thinking and nationwide strategy or national strategy. Thank you for that, Alan. If I can come to you, Graham, thank you for your patience. So most people, I'm sure, will know who Nexent are, but perhaps you could introduce Nexent. To me, they're one of the world's leading petrochemicals consultancies. Perhaps you could elaborate on that. But I'm just wondered, from a consultant's point of view, what's your, joining up all the threads that we've had, what's your view on the future scope for conversion industries in Saudi Arabia and sort of the strategic development strategy, and maybe within the context of shale gas in the US as well? It's a lot of things to wrap up.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity to be here. For those of you, can you hear me? No. Is it working now?
Yes,
better. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. For those of you who don't know Nexant, we're a consultancy to the energy and chemical sector, providing a range of corporate strategy, marketing, technology evaluation services. We've been highly active with many of the companies in this room, and in more recent times, of course, with the move downstream in the kingdom. I lead our Middle East activities from our regional office in Bahrain, but we've been active in this region. We're a global consultancy, but we've been active here for over 40 years. Your question about the sort of... Could you just repeat the question? Sorry.
I was just wondering if, with your consultant's hat on, you're in a good position to pull together a lot of the threads that we've been discussing over the past day or two. And so I'm just wondering what you think, what's your view on the scope for Saudi Arabia's sort of development of specialty products and going further down into conversion industries, and then also I threw in shale gas because obviously that affects cost competitiveness.
That's right. Okay, I think any investment has to be sustainable in the long term. It has to be competitive if it's going to survive. And I think the advice that we would give our clients is that one needs to put forward a project because it stands on its own 2 feet, not just because it's a name that's not yet made here. I mean, obviously, the Ministry of Petroleum has been very successful in encouraging diversification within the kingdom, and you're more likely to be successful in an application for feedstock if you are making a product that is new to the kingdom or is currently imported in the kingdom, and there's very sensible reasons for that. And there are competitive advantages to being in this kingdom here. I thought Engineer Salah Al-Nazar's paper this morning had a couple of very good slides that summarised some of the benefits. The investors and lenders and sponsors of projects, of course, want to see returns on their investments. Historically, they have been extremely high in this sector. And when you move down the value chain, they will not be so high. Making methanol or ethylene glycol from 75% gas is a very profitable exercise. When you've captured that feedstock advantage and you move further down the value chain, the product that you start from has an international value. And I think we heard from SABIC this morning, quite rightly, that their products have an international value, and there's a clear pricing strategy, organisations such as ISIS quoting the price, and they're doing the right thing. So as you move down the value chain, then you haven't got that competitive advantage. Now, Saudi Arabia, of course, does have competitive advantages, and I like the slide that Salah showed, which talked about there is some feedstock advantage because you're starting from net-back pricing. There are, of course, utility advantages, energy cost advantages, financing advantages, as we heard, which make, and the lower tax environment. So there are advantages to being here, but the sort of returns investors will be seeing will be, let's say, low double-digit returns rather than multiple of tens of double-digit returns. In terms of the new types of business, you could say historically, because the focus has been on capturing the value from the feedstock, the focus of many of the existing companies has been to focus on a few number of commodity grades. The organisation has been about bulk export of products, a product-focused organisation, and we're now seeing, as you just said, moving towards customer-focused, market-focused organisations where it's about customer service, it's about differentiation, technology development, complex logistics, and transforming organisations, or new organisations being formed, being marketing and customer focused. So it's a new way of doing business, and I think that these are real challenges which are successfully being met. We're aware of a number of new successful organisations, but you have to embrace this new type of business as you move down the value chain here.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps we can come on to the issues about the changing global picture later on in the discussion, but
sure.
Everyone's now had a chance to introduce themselves and set out their stall for this discussion. I do want to encourage questions from the floor, so please, we've got a fairly limited length of time, so don't be shy, raise your hands, and we'll try and come to you. Timon, if I could come back to you at SABIC, so you're talking about the diversification of SABIC's portfolio. I'm interested to know where you see the opportunities for, in terms of particular sectors, pharmaceuticals, household goods, where are the sort of the main opportunities? And perhaps in a global context, is there a sort of strategic shift thinking more about serving the Chinese markets as perhaps becomes more self-sufficient or something like that? Is there a geo-economic shift as well?
Sure. I think it's important to take a look at what industry dynamics are going on or what's going on within a region and think market back, which is what we're starting to do as a company on a large scale. Within the region, you have water scarcity. You've got, in some places, an arid climate. You've got hot climate. And industries or markets where those three dynamics kind of converge, it creates a sweet spot for future growth in diversified products. Maybe it's membrane technology for desalination. It could be building and construction advancement in materials so that they last longer in harsh environments. Those are areas where we're looking at exploring and how our materials can provide a solution for existing value chains that are here and new value chains that may come. As a customer of ours, I think what we're challenging them to do is think about how they want to grow. Do they want to diversify within the industry or segment that they play in now? Or would they like to move into something that's totally different and unique? It's a bit of a safer play to diversify within your industry. And if you're in the packaging industry, doing a different type of packaging is a little bit less risky. If you're currently in the packaging industry today and you want to learn how to make solar modules, that's a bit more risky. So you have to understand the trade-offs and market potential when making that call.
And how much of your of SABIC's thinking about future products is dictated by serving the local market, and how much is looking outside at sort of global trends?
Right now in the local market, we're still operating a bit more in the push environment than in the pull. With the home of innovation, we're trying to develop that pull mentality. A fellow panelist here mentioned international brands and technology providers. The home of innovation is geared to introduce a lot of these well-recognized brands that we all know about Saudi Arabia, about the opportunities that we have within this region. That's one way we're trying to accomplish it. Once you get the ball rolling and you gain momentum, then you do get into a pull environment where our new capacity additions based on current need and less about us working with our customers to develop it.
Okay. And Dr. Eid, if we can, I accept your caveat at the beginning about the position of your own company, but if we broaden it to the perspective of the needs of converters and producers coming, investing in the kingdom, setting up in the kingdom, what do you think the main criteria that potential producers will be looking at, and where is the kingdom strong and where does it have challenges to be addressed?
Thank you. At the end, this is a private sector for business, for-profit enterprise. So if somebody's coming in to establish a manufacturing base in the kingdom, there has to be a return on investment. We believe that the kingdom offers that. They need to manage their risk. Who do they partner with? What is the supply chain looking like? Access to raw material, access to qualified local talent, access to markets, logistics. And the kingdom, I believe, is doing a lot. It's doing great things in terms of developing its material selection, developing its learning centers, developing its logistics. There's a lot of investments, and I think it's a great destination. That's why this industrial park we believe, is a model for a landing. If this international plastics manufacturing company, an OEM company, it can come and establish its presence in a safe, high-quality environment. I would like to share a personal note. We talk about converters and we talk about, downstream. I respect the pedigree and the heritage of the petrochemical industry. but we're talking about manufacturing jobs. We're talking about, His Excellency Mr. Madi yesterday said about, we don't want to bring in people to do more caps or film. We want to bring in people that transfer technology and create systems, original equipment manufacturers. Take the car, for example. At the end, you're manufacturing a car. You've got a metal frame. You've got plastic components. You've got rubber tires. You've got engine blocks. And we need to start bringing in that talk, these key words, into our dialogue, because it focuses us on high-value manufacturing jobs that either plastics or systems that combine plastics and other metals. And this is all being developed in the kingdom. It's a great opportunity. Part of it is awareness. Sometimes people do not know in the international markets what this kingdom has to offer. And we're doing our part, and I think the private sector also needs to do that part. So, going back to your question, this will remain a private enterprise for profit. And so attracting them will have to solve their profitability expectations, but also to manage their risk in investing in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, thank you. And perhaps I can extend the same question, Graham, to you. So I'm interested in, what does Saudi need to work on to attract investors in the downstream industries, and what are its strengths?
Well, I think it's done, as you said, it's done a lot. I think it is a very attractive place to invest. As I mentioned earlier, the financial support is there, the infrastructure is there, there's a lot of organisations very keen to attract days like today. There's a lot happening to encourage downstream investment. As was also said, the project has to stand on its own 2 feet. Which means it needs to make money in its own right, give an adequate return to investors. I think there needs to be, as we talked about, the supply push or customer pull. It is about increasingly the customer pull the further down the value chain you go. I'd be interested to hear, Razvi, you just said that you're making nylon for the automotive, or part of what I used to work in nylon actually for ICI DuPont as well. The engineering plastics that go into the car will be there for the future when cars are made here, but today presumably, or when your plant starts up, it will be exported. So your business model will be having some lower netbacks to start with than you would have when you have a local customer, I presume. So you're having... Sorry, I'm turning a question into a question here. But
yeah, well, for the nylon, it's here. We're going to produce it. Now this is an opportunity. It's not a problem. Let's look at how can we use this nylon 6.6. This is the private sector. Let's expand. Let's utilize the centers of excellence, the innovation centers. Let's look at engineering products. It's here. It's going to be produced. Instead of focusing on why and where we're going to use it, it's here. What can we do with it? Now that we have this local nylon 6 engineered resin being produced, and more engineered resins are coming online, what can we do with it? I think that's an exciting question for the private sector to work on, to look at if instead of them doing low-value products, now they can, with nylon 6.6 and other engineered resins, let's bring high-value products. Let's look at that and let's export to the whole world. I mean, that's the message that I carry, and I think it's a message that we need to all carry. We need to be excited about what's happening in the kingdom. Yes, there are dangers of duplication. There might be oversupply, but we're still every day is an improvement on the day before, and that's been our position, and will continue to be so.
Graham, if I can just on the theme that Alan raised first about brands, and you've just touched on there. I'm just wondering if there are industries or sectors that the kingdom is not set up to support. So I'm thinking about pharmaceuticals, where you have companies like Pfizer or AstraZeneca. They aren't set up in Saudi Arabia, but they are in Egypt, for example. So that are there some industries that just aren't going to come in the current environment, and ones that we should be focusing on?
I think for my experience, now we are in the downstreams, particularly this panel discussions about the advanced materials. That is we are already in the green technologies. We are now in the 15 countries, and what we're looking into the Saudis, the environments for us to come in is that to build this sustainable, the models working with the upstream and the downstreams together, which is different. It's not the technology only. It's the business model that we're going to collaborate and cooperate with all the stakeholders. For example, like for the green technology is also biodegradable, and in actuals, operations to make this the business model work, we need, that for example, the 3P concept, the private sector come in as the first leader to lead the move, and then you got public as a government to support it, and followed by the people. And our concept here is looking at very basic, that the more important is the cost. Our technology is very cost affordable, which I think this Saudi Arabia, they have the competitive raw material for us, which we can produce our compounding here, and collaborate with the upstream and bring in the brand owners to Saudi and go for the global market. Because if you want to go for the downstreams, for the real downstream sustainability, look at the Saudi market, I think the local market will not be sustained. If you really, I have the figure of the polymers production maybe in the GCC or in Saudi is more than, going to be 20 million, metric ton for polymers. And you look at the polyethylene and the polypropylene, and to rely on the domestic market, I don't think so. This is sufficient enough. And how we're looking into the first is the branding, marketing, and the strategic location of the Saudi to the North Africa market or to the Europe market. So I think that finding the right, that partner and the right, the business model is very important in Saudi.
Thank you. Could we have a microphone, please, for the audience? We have a hand up on the left-hand side, please. Sorry, were you going to make a point, Simon? No, sorry, I thought you were catching my eye there. If you could introduce yourself and your organisation, thank you.
Hi, yes, my name is Tariq Al-Nakib. Represent international trading company called REI. And I had a few questions, actually. One question for Mr. Allen, I believe, from China. I wanted to ask you spoke about this oxo-biodegradable additive. Who are you currently working with in Saudi Arabia? Because I understand that in the UAE, there's some legislation mandating the use of oxo-biodegradable in plastic products. And I know that there are above 6 different countries in Africa now also who have put in some legislation, including Bangladesh in the Indian subcontinent. So I was wondering, here in Saudi Arabia, what do you think is the future for oxo-biodegradable? And what are the ventures or the initiatives that your company is currently taking in the region?
Thank you for the questions. Let me share about our experience about the oxo-biodegradable in the different countries. We started actually this technology in Indonesia. Indonesia is a 275 million population, the largest South Asian country. As I mentioned, we have the 2 technology. Oxo-biodegradable, cost leadership is one of the key issues here for the very low-end product for the traditional bazaar market bag or the shopping mall bag. This is the checkout bag, which is the retail, that going to give free as a carrier for the consumer. For me, I think in Saudi Arabia, the private sector is very important for our experience. Sometimes to wait for the government to move, there's a lot of regulations. Just for example, like in the Vietnams, before they launched the offshore biodegradable, they have this law who collect 170% environmental tax from this converter or the user. If the bag are not offshore biodegradable, green, they got to pay 170%. In fact, this is not sustainable because first, what's happening is that the Ministry of Finance will go to Ministry of Environment and say that now a lot of big converters, because they are big, so they are not able to, produce. And then this production go to all the small households production, which is they run the tax. They don't pay the tax. And the big converter facing the problem, their production is down. And then they shifted to the households production, which government cannot control. This making trouble for the Ministry of Finance. The tax income is reduced. And then they go to Prime Minister of the Vietnam and say, now looks, the Ministry of Environment is creating problem for me. And there's no solution on it. A bag is still a bag. Still people are using. There's no solution for today. When you're looking into the paper bag, it's no solutions. Because in actual case, the full value chains or supply chain, paper bag is also having a higher carbon footprint. My opinions and the experience that take the technology which is affordable, and this is the key issue. Second, working with all the stakeholders. For example, like maybe we work with the polyethylene producer for the tin gauge. That the films reduce. One of the concepts is reduce, and yet degradable. And that's where I think that the Saudi Arabia is in these situations to help the converter to, for example, like SABIC, they have the application, to help the converter to make the product more competitive in terms of cost, and our technology can make this affordable. I think the issue is affordable because when we go to the U.S., we talk to the Target, we talk to the Walmart, we have the Minnesota office, we talk to them, and bottom line is cost. So I think this is a very key issue to make the offshore biodegradable or biodegradable, viable and feasible in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have one more question from the front row, and then I'm going to close the session.
Qasim al-Sheikh, Saudi Bin Laden Group. Assuming tomorrow our Ministry of Finance Ministry of Oil and Minerals decided that all the shale gas in Saudi Arabia will be dedicated for the petrochemical downstream chain that Mr. Musa'ad Al-Awhali have mentioned this morning. Are we going to see a new development that we will be a hub like what we are doing now in the basic chemicals in Saudi Arabia with the same price, 75 cents per million BTU? The question for all the panels, please. I'd like to hear their voice.
Okay, I'm not sure where to start, Graham.
So just to clarify, that was assuming there was unlimited gas available at 75 cents because there was big shale gas. Yeah. Obviously. Okay. Obviously, that would be very good news for Saudi Arabia. It would mean that a lot of the constraints on new feedstock allocations for the basic chemicals that have historically been made here would suddenly be removed. Of course, the gas would also go into fantastic news. It would mean that Saudi Arabia would have provided other countries like China and Europe didn't also find unlimited gas supplies, Saudi Arabia would have a very good cost position once more. The caveat I would add, though, is that the shale gas isn't being exploited at 75 cents in the USA. So gas prices, as I'm sure you know, they fell to $2.50, $3, now $4. We expect them to go up to 5, 6, 7. Still lower than the European gas and Northeast Asian gas prices, which are indirectly linked by crude oil price. But at that sort of gas price, the impact of shale gas is very profound in North America, and I'm sure North America will start to export certain products, let's say South America, but in the world's largest market and fastest growing market in Asia, the Middle East remains much more competitive than the US. The 75-cent gas, even if it goes up a little bit, it's still much lower than the $5 in the US, and there's better freight connections from here to Asia than the large US shale gas plays in, let's say, the Marcellus in the northeast US. There's 3,000 miles to get it across the US to the Pacific coast, plus trans-Pacific freight. So the Middle East, I was asked earlier, I think the Middle East remains in a very good position for servicing Asia. Of course, the North American shale gas will make North America start backing out imports and become very competitive in North America once more. So that would be my opinion.
Okay, just before I close the session, I actually just wanted to touch on your point there about global competitiveness. Graham in a panel this afternoon talking about competitiveness. I wondered if any of the other panellists wanted to make any observations about competitiveness on the global threats from shale gas in US. Timon is.
Sure. From a supply side, I'm not the appropriate person to answer that, but I can tell you from a demand side, what SABIC brings is global reach. So we have resources all around the world where that are going on. That will allow us to transfer the required information locally and capitalize on things that have been successful in Asia or Americas and Europe in the past. Learn from it, localize it, and make it successful here.
Okay, thank you. To a close, but before I do, I'd like to. Sorry, was that a hand up?
Yeah.
Sorry, one more question then.
Well, my name is Abdul Wahab Sadoun. I'm from the GPCA, the Gulf Petrochemical and Chemical Associations. I'd like to comment on the question raised by the gentleman here about the oxo biodegradable. It's our opinion as an industry in this part of the world that the oxo biodegradable, and this is not only our opinion as the association that represent the petrochemical industry in the Gulf region, but also this is the opinion of the other leading plastic associations in Europe and in the United States. I'm referring to Plastic Europe and the American Chemistry Council, that the oxo biodegradable has many disadvantages, including the oxo biodegradable plastic is not recyclable. This is one thing. The other, most of the additives do contain heavy metals. When the plastic waste ends in the landfill, that will create significant damage to the underground water. So I think we don't endorse investment in the oxo biodegradable because there is no scientific also proof that the plastic will degrade in a very short time span. The other comment, if you allow me, and this is building on the push and pull. Graham and other gentlemen, and we've seen also earlier in the previous session some speakers referring to this. Most of those initiatives that we see in Saudi Arabia is being pushed by the Ministry of Petroleum, and we need to give credit to the leader who had been behind this, the Prince Faisal bin Turki. It's the time now for us, even those innovation centers that Tasni, SABIC and others are investing in, which is really the right thing and the key enablers for developing a globally competitive plastic conversion industry, is investing in the innovation. And here I'd like to refer to our effort as an association in this regard. We're organizing an event focusing on the research and innovation, which will be held next week in Dubai, and it will be inaugurated by the chairman of the GPCA, Mr. Mohammed Al-Madi. So I'd like all the delegates to consider attending this and participate in the debate. You know, how can we develop an innovative plastic conversion industry in this part of the world? We need to build the local capabilities in innovation, and this will be the way forward to having a successful industry in Saudi Arabia and in the Gulf region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alan, perhaps you want to respond to that first point about oxo-biodegradables?
First, I would like to answer the statement that you have made regard to the oxo-biodegradable, which is there's no proven scientific, but in the green technologies, there is a few standards that we need to test it, you know. First is the STM 6950, which is American's testing method, you know, for the oxo-biodegradable. There's three testing in this testing. First is the degradable, and second is the biodegradable, and third is the toxicity. There's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 that you need to go through for the testing and approved by the European standard lab. Okay? And regard to I think the today was that we are looking for the transformations, looking into the biodegradables, for example, renewable, okay? And look at the situations today. I don't think so. We are in the right, you know, that the times to talk about the one-time transformations. We have two technology. We are also looking for the biodegradable, from the oxo-biodegradable to the biodegradable. But the question is that for now to start the biodegradable in terms of the plastic from 1 cent to become 10 cents is not able to execute. It just is the small segment in the whole market. We need only to tap on the high-end market, for example, like high brands in the Gucci, Prada, or Zara, you know. They are willing to pay for this high price bag in exchange of the value for their corporate social responsibility image as a marketing communications. But if you're looking into the supermarket or the traditional bazaar, there's no way that we can go for this biodegradable. And coming to the heavy metal, you know, we have I mean, not only us, most of the oxo-biodegradable, they have the RoHS certificate. They have tested also in all these certificates, which I do not know that why the work, or so-called that you mentioned, the plastic associations mentioned that this is going to be harm to the environment. Again, I think there's going to be debate, you know.
Well, I probably have to bring the session to a close, but the gentleman mentioned the GPCA conference next week, I think you said. Possibly there is a debate to be had in that forum, or if I can do some marketing from Mead, we have our own petrochemicals event in Dubai in 2 weeks' time, so there's an opportunity to take this debate to the industry. It sounds like a very important topic, actually, so thank you for that. I'm afraid I'm going to have to call the panel to an end for the moment. Before I do, I'd like to invite to the stage again Dr. Alan Asif, the Executive President of Yanbu for the Royal Commission, if Dr. Ala is available, to present Speaker Recognition Awards for this session. Please join us in thanking the speakers. So I will read the names out one by one as before, and we will make the presentations. Oh, I apologise. It's His Highness Prince Saud bin Tunayan who is making the presentations. Thank you, Your Highness. So please join us in thanking our speakers, Dr. Raed Al-Zubi, Executive President of the Petrochemical Conversion Company Limited. Thank you very much, Dr. Raed. Tymon Moore, Director of Marketing at Innovative Plastics at SABIC. Thank you, Tymon. Alan Yeep, Chief Executive Officer at New Quantum Holdings. Thank you, Alan. And double thanks to Graham Hoare, Vice President Middle East at Nexant, for attending and for also filling in at short notice. Thank you, Graham. Well, thank you very much, panelists and everyone. It's been a great morning session. I am sorry if you don't like me to let these things overrun, but I think it's important we have a dialogue from the speakers to the floor, so I feel it's been very productive. Hopefully you do too. We will break now for prayers and a networking lunch, and there is going to be a signing ceremony, and then we will break for lunch. We will reconvene at 1 o'clock for the experience of an independent investor in downstream industries from Ingenia Polymers. So thank you very much.
Our valued guests, we're pleased to announce the signature ceremony for the Land Lease Investment Agreement between the Royal Commission and Jubail Glass Company for establishing an existing operating facility in Yanbu, الصناعية. Representing Royal Commission for Yanbu, His Excellency Dr. Ala Nasif, and Jubail Glass Abdullah Al-Jubail. بهذا تم التوقيع على بركة الله. We'll now break for about an hour, for exactly an hour for lunch and prayers. We will be back here at 1:05. We will be back here at 1:05, 1:05. Thank you very much.